Welcome back to Rand on Real Estate on 77 WABC. I'm your host, Greg Rand, and we're joined on the phone now by Keith Braunfetel. Keith is an attorney in Rockland County, New York, who is also a real estate investor, and he's the guy that I told you about earlier in the show who is quietly getting wealthy in real estate investing. How you doing, Keith?
Hi, how are you, Greg? Nice to be on the show.
Thank you. Great to have you. Appreciate you coming on board. So we know each other because, and some of the listeners may know about you because we talked about your case last week about how I'll ask you. You made an acquisition recently, right in the middle of the Great Recession. You made a real estate acquisition. Tell us what you did and why you did it.
Well, my law firm and we had an opportunity to find a piece of property that was centrally located in the court district in our hometown of New City. And it's between two of the biggest courthouses in our county. And we saw a piece of property that was undervalued, underutilized, and we were able to get in there at a reasonable cost due to the recession.
Now, the person that owned it before you was in the same profession, right?
Yes, he was a lawyer. He had a pretty thriving practice, but as he declined in age, so did his practice. And his last asset of his practice really was his building.
Right. So that was a life-changing decision on his part 30 years ago when he bought that property because he did not plan for his exit of his profession. He didn't plan for a successor, and so when he was done, the only really good check he walked away with when he didn't sell his practice, but he sold the building his practice was in and walked away with fistfuls of cash on his way down to wherever he was going to retire.
That's correct. What happens with many lawyers who go out and hang up a shingle, they build up a clientele, and that clientele is really wedded to the lawyer themselves. And it's very hard to transition a client from one lawyer to another. And even though he had built this great practice with clients, he didn't have the ability, as all of us have a very difficult time transferring his clients to a new law firm. So rather than do that, he just closed up shop and sold his building. So he wasn't able to capitalize on the practice as much as he was able to capitalize on the building.
So now you are your own tenant, and so for people out there who hate the idea of being a landlord, which always cracks me up, Keith, because people say, I don't want to be a landlord. You have to love your tenants. You know, it's got to be that way. It's like having a restaurant and hating people that won't cook for themselves. You know, you got to get your head in the right place. We know what this building meant to the man who sold it to you. It meant a lot, and when he spoke about it, he had affection for it. What does it mean to you? I mean, how would you describe what this building, how it affects you emotionally?
Well, not only did we purchase the property, but we made a substantial investment in the renovation of the building. And both myself and my partner look at it as a source of pride. I think the neighborhood looks at it as a source of pride. It really, New City is going through a revitalization right now, and we'd like to think of our building as the crowning jewel right now of downtown New City, and we're very, very proud of it, and it represents really our present and our future, and we're very, very excited about it.
That's awesome. I'm glad you brought up the revitalization of New City. I had forgotten about that. I had just finished talking about the idea of how to pick a winning market, where if you can find something good, something inherently good and positive in a locality, and then find for some reason a building that for whatever reason has got some kind of a problem, that's a winner because you'll have upside almost immediately. So you were aware, being a local practitioner in New City, you were aware that there was a political movement to revitalize the facades of Main Street, New City, to make it more charming. So you were able to find something inherent in New City that made it different than any of the towns around New City that aren't going through that same kind of gentrification.
Well, New City is both mine and my partner's hometown, so we're intimately familiar with what New City is. The building that we purchased, I had been in this building probably in early 1991 for a closing with that prior lawyer, and I said to myself, if this building ever goes for sale, I'd love to buy it. It's the perfect location. It has a huge parking lot, which is invaluable. I think we have the largest parking lot on Maple Avenue right now. So when we saw it come up for sale and it was undervalued because of the market was under stress, and quite frankly, he had not taken care of it since probably 1991. It was a great opportunity for us to come in and take over.
That's beautiful. So when somebody else sees a building that's a little bit dilapidated, they might say, well, I don't want any part of that, but you found the perfect combination. You found that short-term situation where the building was a little bit stressed condition-wise, hadn't been updated, hadn't been kept as well. That to you was gold, and you were willing to put the money into it because you know you'd see the value back. And you knew that when all your neighbors in downtown New City started to upgrade their buildings, it was going to, all boats were going to rise with that tide, and you'll probably see, almost certainly you'll see better appreciation than average in the county that you're in because you found that perfect combination.
Yeah, we like to think so. I can't tell you how proud we are of this project, and this is an opportunity that I don't think is once in a lifetime. I think you just got to look for it. And what I tell other people when they're buying homes or other commercial property that is somewhat dilapidated, I tell them they're going to make changes anyway. You might as well change things that you want now as opposed to struggling through that kitchen that you don't want later on. You might as well just pick a house that you can turn into exactly what you want it to be.
That's great. And what I also love about your story is that you mentioned that I didn't know this until today, that you had seen this building back in the 90s. The timing right now of the real estate market is that we're heading into a point where we've got 5 years for people to take a position, 5 years to begin their research. People sometimes, it's a immediate gratification world we live in. So people who say, I want to buy real estate, they want to go out and find a property tomorrow. They want to close on it right away. They don't have a down payment. They run for one of these get-rich-quick schemes. When the truth is, the first dollar you stick in a coffee can, you've begun your strategy. You started this thing in 1991. A whole cycle happened in between when you first eyeballed this property, made the decision you wanted to grab it when it came for sale. And now, and that's part of the message here, is that nothing that works in real estate, unless you get lucky, is a short-term play. But the long-term plays can have short-term gratification because they are fun. You are acquiring something. You are building that asset long-term. And real quick, you have a couple of other properties in your portfolio, right?
Yes, I have two family homes that are rentals. And again, it gets back to loving your tenant. But we've been lucky to have 4 good, solid tenants that have made it through a substantial period of time. And I'm hoping, we took 15-year mortgages on both of those, so I'm hoping that those are paid off relatively soon and we could mortgage them to buy a third property.
All right, Keith. Well, listen, thank you very much for sharing your story. It's phenomenal, and you're doing the right thing. Keep it going.
Thank you, Greg, and thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. All right, thanks for listening to Greg Rand's Rand on Real Estate on 77 WABC. The website is gregrand.com. The email address is greg.rand@randrealty.com. 77 WABC.